An ABC News exclusive, a unique look inside Camelot. The story is told by the First Lady about her husband, the President. The details are in those never-before-released tapes made by Jacqueline Kennedy just 4 months after John F. Kennedy's assassination.
History remembers Jackie Kennedy as poised, graceful, and untouchable. Yet, behind closed doors, her longtime bodyguard reportedly witnessed moments the public was never meant to see. For decades, he kept those memories locked away, or so everyone believed. Now, after 50 years of silence, Jackie Kennedy's personal bodyguard is finally speaking out, forcing historians and fans alike to reconsider everything they thought they knew. What exactly was hidden, and why was it kept secret for so long? The Shield of Camelot, an unseen bond. Jacqueline Bouvier was a highly educated young woman working as a newspaper photographer in Washington when she met a charming, ambitious young politician named John F. Kennedy. Soon enough, the couple married in a massive, beautiful wedding in 1953, and their lives quickly moved into the high-stakes world of American politics. By 1961, John was elected as the 35th President of the United States. When they moved into the White House, they brought along their 2 young children, Caroline and John Jr. And for the first time in over half a century, the American public watched a young, vibrant family run around the executive mansion. This created the beautiful image that the media famously called Camelot. And while everyone saw a flawless fairy tale, the man standing just inches away witnessed a completely different reality. Let's go back to the exact moment this haunting relationship began. You see, when Jackie Kennedy first moved into the White House, she viewed the Secret Service as an annoying invasion of her privacy. She fought hard against having a permanent security guard, preferring to slip away unnoticed whenever possible, wanting to protect her private moments. However, a young agent named Clint Hill was still assigned to her. At first, when Hill received the official assignment to guard her, he felt quite disappointed. Most young agents wanted the high-status, fast-paced action of the presidential detail, not the quiet task of shadowing a young mother. But none guessed that this forced arrangement would soon transform into an unbreakable partnership built on absolute loyalty. Surprisingly, Jackie Kennedy and Clint Hill's unexpected connection deepened during grueling diplomatic tours to India and Pakistan, far away from the regular American press corps. Hill became far more than a silent observer in a dark suit. He evolved into her steady emotional anchor in an overwhelming world that constantly demanded perfection. He learned her exact routines, anticipated her anxieties, and shielded her private vulnerabilities from aggressive news cameras. This intense, platonic closeness gave him a front-row seat to a complicated woman who desperately needed someone she could completely trust. The tight circle of security expanded when another young agent, Paul Landis, joined the team to protect the young children, Caroline and John Jr. This unique role gave Landis a completely unfiltered view of daily life inside the executive mansion. While everyday Americans looked at beautifully staged family magazine covers, Landis saw the messy human reality. He watched the children play, heard the quiet disagreements, and observed the normal family struggles that the polished Camelot fairy tale worked so hard to hide from the public. However, during the final days in August 1963, those hidden struggles turned into overwhelming heartbreak. The young couple suffered a devastating blow when their newborn son, Patrick, passed away only 2 days after his premature birth. The protective agents stood watch outside the quiet hospital doors, witnessing a level of raw, painful grief that the public cameras never saw. They observed the massive emotional strain this tragedy placed on the political marriage, alongside the quiet moments where the grieving parents leaned on each other for survival. Again, by late autumn, a heavy sense of worry filled the Secret Service office. The agents began tracking a growing list of hostile political threats coming directly out of Texas. And despite these clear operational warnings, political advisors finalized the campaign route through Dallas. The security team meticulously double-checked their standard safety plans, thinking they were aware of everything. But none of their elite tactical training could prepare these men for the absolute pandemonium waiting in the Texas sunshine. A single moment that would shatter history in less than 4 seconds. 3 seconds to shatter a legacy. The cheerful roar of over 100,000 excited spectators packed into Dealey Plaza vanished in a heartbeat. A sharp crack echoed off the concrete structures, sounding to many onlookers like a motorcycle backfire. Suddenly, devastating rifle shots tore through the autumn air and struck the president. In the back of the open-top limousine, the atmosphere completely reversed, as the commander-in-chief suddenly slumped forward, clutching his throat. The festive parade transformed instantly into absolute terror before the crowd even realized what was happening. From the running board of the trailing security vehicle, Agent Clint Hill acted on pure adrenaline. He did not hesitate for a fraction of a second when the gunfire erupted. Hill leaped from his position and sprinted forward, chasing down the presidential limousine as it surged ahead. His boots pounded against the hot asphalt in a desperate attempt to reach the vehicle and shield the first family from the deadly rain of bullets. By the time he reached the rear bumper, the vehicle was picking up speed, forcing a frantic grab for the metal handholds. What Hill witnessed as he pulled himself onto the car trunk remains an incredibly haunting image. On the side, a completely traumatized Jackie Kennedy was scrambling blindly onto the rear hood of the moving vehicle. Driven by deep emotional shock, she crawled on her knees across the leather to retrieve agonizing fragments of her husband's shattered skull. However, Hill pushed her back down into the rear seat, spreading his body over her and the bleeding president to form a human shield against further incoming rounds. While Hill held the family down, another historic mystery was quietly unfolding inside the blood-stained vehicle. Here, Agent Paul Landis noticed something extraordinary lodged directly in the seam of the leather seat cushion. It was a pristine, fully intact bullet that appeared to have popped loose from the president's back wound during the chaotic movement. Fearing a souvenir hunter would steal this vital evidence in the looming confusion, Landis made a quick decision to slide the projectile into his pocket. This hidden action would remain buried for 6 decades, altering everything the public thought they knew about the shooting. With the wounded president cradled in his wife's lap, the vehicle began a terrifying high-speed dash toward the nearest medical facility. Hill remained spread-eagled across the trunk, feeling the intense wind and violent swerves as the driver pushed the engine to its limit. Jackie sat in frozen silence, her famous pink outfit covered in dark stains, staring blankly ahead as they fled the scene. As the limousine screeched to a halt at the emergency bay, the physical ambush was over, but an agonizing psychological battle for Jackie's survival was just beginning inside the hospital walls. The grim vigil of Trauma Room 1. Once they got into Parkland Memorial Hospital, it quickly turned into a chaotic scene of panic and confusion. Medical professionals rushed into Trauma Room 1, bringing in heavy equipment and working fruitlessly over the fallen leader. Amidst this frantic medical scramble, the First Lady stood entirely frozen against the wall. She remained an island of total silence, in a room filled with shouting and frantic energy, refusing every gentle request from the hospital staff to step outside into the safety of the hallway. She chose instead to witness the final battle for his life, staring directly at the emergency table. Agents Clint Hill and Paul Landis stood shoulder to shoulder right next to her, forming a rigid physical barrier to keep unauthorized officials and curious bystanders away from her side. From this close vantage point, the guards watched the young mother drop directly to her knees on the blood-covered floor. She completely ignored the surrounding noise and began to pray quietly, her hands gently touching her husband as the doctors realized there was nothing more they could do to save his life. During these final, confusing moments in the operating room, Landis made a critical decision that would alter official historical records for over half a century. He pulled the pristine bullet from his pocket and carefully slid it onto the edge of the presidential hospital stretcher, hoping to keep the vital piece of evidence safe. He had no idea this quick, well-meaning action would create massive historical confusion, eventually giving birth to the highly debated single bullet theory that would challenge official government findings for decades to come. After the official announcement of death, close aides repeatedly begged the grieving First Lady to remove her iconic pink wool suit and wash the visible stains from her skin. She fiercely pushed back against their emotional pleas, refusing to clean the blood from her face or hands. She looked directly at her close assistants and declared that she wanted everyone to see exactly what the attackers had done to her husband. She chose to wear the tragedy openly using her outfit as a silent weapon against the people who destroyed her life. This powerful stance continued aboard the warm cabin of the presidential aircraft during the somber journey back to the Capitol. With the stained clothes, Jackie Kennedy stood directly beside Lyndon B. Johnson during his emergency inauguration ceremony, appearing like a frozen statue of absolute grief. The graphic stains on her clothing forced every government official in the tight room to look at the tragic cost of this sudden transition of power. While the global public marveled at her immense grace and composure during the state funeral, behind closed doors, a far darker psychological collapse was quietly unfolding away from the flashing cameras. The 50-year silence. You know, the immediate aftermath of the tragedy left an invisible, devastating scar on the men who wore the protective black suits. Clint Hill returned to Washington carrying a crushing weight of emotional guilt that would torment his soul for decades. He constantly replayed those chaotic 3 seconds in his mind, tortured by the painful belief that if he had been a tiny fraction of a second faster, he could have taken the final fatal shot himself. This internal torment caused a severe downward spiral into deep depression and total isolation. Night after night, violent terrors woke him up in a cold sweat, forcing him to replay the nightmare of Dealey Plaza until he abruptly and completely walked away from his high-profile Secret Service career in 1975 to escape the haunting ghosts of his past. For over 50 years, both Clint Hill and Paul Landis abided by a strict, unwritten code of absolute silence. They did not view their intimate memories of Jackie Kennedy's private agony as a commercial commodity to sell to the highest bidder. Instead, they treated their experiences as a sacred professional trust that belonged entirely to the grieving family they protected. They turned down massive financial offers and constant media attention, choosing to carry the heavy secrets of that day completely alone in the shadows. They believed that some historical moments were too heavy to expose to a curious public, protecting the First Lady's dignity above all else. This long silence hid a massive, shocking flaw in the government's official investigation of the tragic assassination. Unknowingly, the famous Warren Commission, which was tasked with uncovering the definitive truth for the public, inexplicably forgot to interview Paul Landis altogether. His critical first-hand account of finding the pristine bullet on the limousine upholstery never made it into the official government files. By completely skipping Landis, federal investigators completely missed a massive detail that would challenge the foundation of their entire case, leaving a giant gap in American history that went unnoticed for over half a century. When Landis finally decided to share his shocking story after 6 decades, it shook modern historical circles to their core. His eyewitness testimony completely upends the official narrative by proving the pristine bullet came from the limousine seat, not from Governor John Connolly's hospital stretcher. This crucial detail suggests the bullet popped directly out of the president's shallow back wound before anyone reached the hospital, destroying the foundation of the famous single bullet theory. Without that specific theory, the entire mathematical logic behind a lone gunman falls apart completely, opening up the terrifying possibility of a second shooter. With the official narrative compromised and her trust in the state entirely broken, Jackie realized she could never find true peace or safety on American soil. Escape from America. In 1964, a few months after her husband died, Jackie relocated to a luxury apartment in the heart of New York City. Yet this change of scenery did absolutely nothing to ease her racing mind. Being in Washington meant that a heavy cloud of severe post-traumatic stress disorder followed her everywhere she went. She became entirely convinced that her 2 young children, Caroline and John Jr., remained the primary targets of a massive ongoing conspiracy. Every single shadow on the city streets looked like an active threat, and every unexpected loud noise caused immediate panic. She lived her life in a constant state of hypervigilance, locking her doors and viewing the outside world with deep suspicion. The fragile bubble of security she built in Manhattan completely shattered during the summer of 1968. The devastating assassination of her close brother-in-law, Robert F. Kennedy, destroyed her remaining emotional stability. This second public execution fully convinced her that a hidden group was actively hunting down anyone associated with the Kennedy name. Terrified for the lives of her young children, she decided she had to escape the boundaries of the United States entirely. Her search for absolute safety led to a shocking choice that stunned citizens across the world. Jackie suddenly married an incredibly wealthy Greek shipping tycoon named Aristotle Onassis. While the global public and the media viewed this unexpected union as a strange, cold romance, it was actually a highly calculated transaction. But Jackie was not looking for a traditional love story. She was using his immense fortune to purchase total privacy and a private army of military security guards that an ordinary citizen could never afford. Her longtime American Secret Service protector watched this sudden flight across the Atlantic Ocean with a profound mixture of sadness and deep worry. They understood that by marrying a foreign billionaire, she was legally forced to give up her official government protection detail. She essentially traded away her daily personal freedom for a heavily fortified, top-secret sanctuary on the isolated Greek island of Skorpios. However, her children did not lose their protection. The Secret Service continued to guard Caroline and John Jr. until they reached the age of 16. Even within this beautiful golden fortress, completely surrounded by water, true peace remained out of reach. Jackie discovered that she could not run away from the trauma living inside her own mind. Despite the massive concrete walls, elite security guards patrolling the beaches, and a vast ocean separating her from America, Jackie remained profoundly isolated. She frequently contacted Secret Service Director James Rowley specifically to coordinate security logistics for her children. Because the children split time between New York, boarding schools, and Greece, she actively worked with the agency to request Greek-speaking U.S. agents and ensure that her private security and the American government detail integrated seamlessly to keep her kids safe. Yet, as the final decades of her life rolled forward, the profound truths she shared with her lifelong protectors began to surface in deeply moving ways. The final confessions, what was taken to the grave. Well, the final decades of Jackie Kennedy's life brought her back to the familiar busy streets of New York City, where she quietly reinvented herself far away from international politics. She took a regular corporate job as a professional literary editor at a major publishing house, spending her afternoons reviewing book manuscripts and enjoying the ordinary routines of a working professional. However, in 1993, Jackie found out she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. When she received a devastating medical diagnosis, she chose to face the aggressive illness with the exact same quiet dignity she always displayed to the public. Sadly, she passed away peacefully inside her Manhattan apartment in May 1994, taking her deepest secrets with her, leaving behind an empty space that could never be filled. Throughout her post-White House years, and right up until her final breath, Clint Hill maintained a fierce protective shield around her. He made sure that her private health vulnerabilities and agonizing physical struggles were completely protected from the intrusive lenses of aggressive paparazzi who stalked her daily. When her life ended, Hill experienced a profound emotional breakthrough that finally cracked his decades of silence. He chose to write down his raw, unfiltered memories in a series of deeply personal memoirs, openly weeping during live media interviews as he laid bare his immense respect, absolute devotion, and protective love for the former First Lady. The long era of the original White House Guard officially came to an end in February 2025, when Clint Hill passed away at the age of 93. As the very last surviving witness who was physically on or inside the presidential limousine during the shooting, his passing marked a monumental shift in American history. With these elite sentinels now gone, modern presidential historians are left to completely restructure the official timeline of that fateful day in Dallas. The recent, shocking testimonies from both Landis and Hill have forced leading experts to question the core facts of the assassination, casting a heavy shadow of doubt over the government's original investigation files and opening doors to old cold case files. These combined Bodyguard accounts ultimately reshape how the world remembers the iconic First Lady. When we look deeper, Jackie Kennedy was never a passive victim of a national tragedy or a superficial style icon. She was a deliberate, brilliant architect who masterfully engineered her husband's enduring legacy, shaping the very myth of Camelot to protect his memory for future generations. Yet, their final confessions reveal that her greatest secret was not a hidden political conspiracy at all. It was the terrifying, crushing depth of a profound, permanent loneliness that no amount of royal status, extreme wealth, or global fame could ever cure. Do you think these new Bodyguard revelations change the truth about what happened in Dallas? Or do you believe the official government findings still hold up after all these years? Share your personal thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to smash the like button, share this documentary, and subscribe to our channel. For more incredible history content exactly like this, click on the next video on your screen.